Arms backward, arms up, torso forward. Ready, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
I've lifted off and on all my life at public gyms and never cared at all about the brand names on weight plates or the history and sociology of exercise in this country. But when I started my own home gym during the COVID pandemic, looking for cheap used objects to build my exercise area, I began paying attention to what I was buying for myself. Hence, I've developed a little mini museum in my garage gym featuring what I think are interesting objects, some rather old, from the exercise world. I haven't got the money to buy whatever I want or learn about. I'm retired and on a very fixed income, so I basically scavenge stuff for cheap at thrift shops, yard sales, junk shops, flea markets, public auctions, and so forth. It's a treasure hunt, really, and from the thrift shop realm, I can't say I own anything historically mind-boggling. I think I found some interesting stuff, though. The more interesting things to me are decades old, even antique or vintage, but more recently manufactured stuff can, of course, have a more practical, useful value. Let's start with the fact that just a few days ago I ran across this. Walter Camp's exercise record, shellac, from 1922, over 100 years ago, and it motivated me to do this little video about what you can run across in the thrift shop world. This record set cost me $2.50. It's a 5-record set with a color chart showing muscles in the body and a little booklet depicting Camp's heralded exercises, all to music of the era. Who was Walter Camp? I had no idea. But I discovered as both a player and a coach, he's often heralded as the father of American football for his influence in the growth and even creation of that sport. He was also highly influential with his daily dozen exercise regimen, depicted in this record set, which originated when he was an advisor to the U.S. military during World War I. I found this thing in a box of little plastic-coated dumbbells at a Habitat for Humanity recycle store. None of those neoprene weights interested me, but among them was what looked like a dumbbell of some sort, but I wasn't sure if that was what it was. It was hollow and had a hole in it, but it was nestled in the box of modern dumbbells. It had the basic shape of a dumbbell, and the name on the handle, Strongfort, suggested strength building. So I thought, maybe. I asked a staff member how much did the box cost. He pulled the figure of $5 out of the air, so the little collection of dumbbells and the mysterious object went home with me. I discovered that night on the internet that a 1920s era strongman, a guy named Lionel Strongfort, actually an immigrant from Germany named Max Unger, who, like many entrepreneurs of the past, had a mail-order business where he sold exercise routines and these little dumbbells. They were hollow, yes, and mine was missing its screw plug, but they were designed to be filled with lead shot or whatever as a kind of very incremental adjustable dumbbell. This dumbbell I paid a lot for. I've never seen one like this for sale anywhere yet, other than this one, and it's hard to find information about it. It's a small, early Weider brand dumbbell, and research tells me it was sold in the 1940s and early 1950s. It's closely modeled after George Jowett's original adjustable plate dumbbell, which was patented in the late 1920s. Jowett had early business relations with both later exercise titans Joe Weider and Bob Hoffman of the York Barbell Company, so I wonder if this dumbbell evolved out of that collaboration. Or did Weider rip him off, which, given Weider's business ethics, was possible. This Weider version is a very close echo to the original Jowett model, including its hallmark finger grooves. This next object may be my greatest dumbbell find at a thrift shop, though. It's a 22-pound fixed-weight pro-style dumbbell from Johnny Gibson's company in Tucson, Arizona. It cost me $14.50. Gibson, I discovered, was a fascinating guy. He was a barber for much of his life and a World War II war hero, a prisoner of war, and later, at around 150 pounds in body weight, the winner of the Mr. Arizona contest in 1951. Sometime soon after that, he began his own weightlifting business, and many of his products are highly desirable for quality and unique history to this day. This dumbbell is unusual in my collection. I've got a lot of dumbbells, but this is the only one I've ever run across that actually consists of weight plates that, although spinning freely, has end welds that freeze the plates to the handle. It's classic old school style. The welding is pretty lumpy, and I'm guessing that it was an early product in the beginning of his exercise equipment company. I found all sorts of dumbbells at thrift shops. Here's an old globe style I found for $1.49. Only one was there though, and that's a common theme at thrift shops. Quite often you only find one of a pair, whether weight plates or dumbbells. In this case, a friend of mine found another of the same kind of globe dumbbell for me, somewhere in another town, without even knowing I already had its mate. I presume this one was made for the U.S. Navy, maybe by York, who produced materials for the military in World War II and maybe later. $5 for this. Here's a pair of York bun-style dumbbells. The USA stamp signifies the 1980s or a bit later. York's so-called round heads are popular, and I found a few of those, usually costing about $1 a pound. Its owner from the past added some white paint to herald its poundage identity more quickly. I found these very old, unbranded 20-pound bun dumbbells at a thrift shop. There was no price on them, so I asked the cashier for the cost, and she decided they were $6.50 each. I'll take them. These are so-called glamour bells manufactured by Hollywood Healthways of Los Angeles in the 1950s and were aimed at the women's market. The fact that these two still exist in their original box is helpful in gleaning historical information about them. They came with a couple exercise charts and a couple booklets. The copyright in one of the booklets underscores the era, 1954. Generally speaking, a lot of these mass-produced weightlifting items are considered to be fairly common. But common doesn't mean they're everywhere available these days or even remotely easy to find at even thrift shops. My regular trips to these stores are overwhelmingly typically for nothing. I've spoken to a few staff workers at thrift shops, and weightlifting items tend to get sold fast. They don't linger on the shelves for very long. They sure don't make it to what might be a sale day for stuff that isn't selling. There's an important degree of luck as well as perseverance in successfully taking home this stuff. In my experience, the most common weight plates to be found at thrift shops are 2.5 to 5 pounders. Olympic plates with 2-inch holes are rarer than plates with 1-inch holes, and rather obviously, the more you go up in poundage, heavy plates are a lot more unusual, and of course, proportionally more expensive. The going rate for used weights and dumbbells at thrift shops, at least in my part of the country, is usually around $1 a pound. There are sometimes sale days of various kinds, but cool weightlifting items don't often make it to sale day. I found these collector desirable Good Barbell brand plates out of Pennsylvania at a thrift shop, together with some fairly old York 25-pound plates. Whoever owned them in the past here in Arizona apparently liked them all blue. You can find little 5 and 10-pound dumbbells a lot, neoprene coated especially, but the higher you go in poundage, the more difficult, weightier items are to find. This is the heaviest dumbbell I've ever found at a thrift shop, a 60-pounder, one missing its brother. I've found 45-pound weight plates on occasion, or 50-pounders, but not very often. Here's a nice Ivanko 45-pound plate from the company's better quality M series, but there was only one. And here's a 35-pound Ivanko, only one again, that I found at another shop in a different town on a different date. I heard of Bill Pearl, a very prominent bodybuilder in the 1950s and 1960s, but I didn't know he wrote this massive 640-page book until I ran across it last week at a thrift shop for $8. It looks like some kind of overkill, documenting just about every weightlifting exercise you can possibly imagine by everyone who thought to push a piece of metal on the planet. Some sellers are asking as much as $60 or $70 for this 1980 book on the internet. I never heard of Indian clubs until a couple years ago. Although known as juggling pins, these things were very popular for exercising in the late 1800s and into the early 20th century, emphasizing agility, flexibility, and dexterity before popular notions of heavyweight resistance training. These are unbranded and are a bit unusual, somewhat heavy at slightly over 6 pounds apiece. Much of the old patina is worn off, but someone seems to have once put some effort into making them. These were fairly costly to me. I paid $50 for them. Practical, fairly recently manufactured finds include this fitness reality bench for $22.50. New with tax, it costs about $250. And this Dex 2 back machine for $37. New, it costs $499 plus tax, even at Amazon and Walmart. Joe Rogan, for what it's worth, swears by it. I'm still trying to clear out space in my garage to actually use them. I've also seen, over the last few years, a number of used treadmills at thrift shops at really good prices, but I hesitate to buy anything that has a lot of moving parts and is based on electricity. If you're a Mr. Fix-It kind of guy, but me, I don't need a 200-pound paperweight. I pick up all kinds of things at thrift shops. Take this junky stretch thing I paid $1.65 for. Emblematic of the probably 1980s literally plastic rush to cash in on people's growing interest in even what seems to me symbolic exercise. I've got a few spring-based chest expanders that I found in thrift shops, the oldest probably being this Whiteley brand from the 1950s, as may be this hand gripper that I paid $2 for. How about bull workers? I never even heard of them until I bought the first one. I've never used it yet, but I paid $7 for the first and $2 for the second, a different model, at different shops, at different times. The price was right to help fill my personal exercise mini museum. And let's conclude here with, shall we say, my crowning glory. A pair of gold 5-pound dumbbells in a wooden presentation box by the Ivanko Company, made in Taiwan. Others online claim these dumbbells are actually gold-plated and were awarded to winners here and there in weightlifting contests. If so, gold-plated, I researched, doesn't necessarily translate into big value, but these things were certainly limited in production. Ivanko is a respected brand, and the novelty of these oddities probably means they're a lot more valuable than the $55 I paid for them. They're intended more as a conversation piece or a joke, I'd imagine, rather than as functional objects. Hence, the protective wooden box, as if they were sacred, not dumb, but smart bells. Gold is supposed to be a soft metal. Drop these things a few times and you're probably looking at 2 little iron dumbbells and scattered gold flakes on the floor. As much as I conceive my hunts at thrift shops to be abstractly a long-term treasure hunt, wherein any wonderful thing is in theory possible to be discovered, these 2 little garish, gaudy, over-the-top dumbbells are probably as close to any holy grail in the vintage weightlifting world as I'm ever likely to get.